dear children, we are back again with the second week of the vacation classes. So, welcome to the second week, new chapter. You have taken 2 days break, so let's resume with the learning. Today, as I promised, I have come back with a new chapter that is from political science, federalism. Without any delays, let's begin. What are there in today's video? In today's video, we are going to study what is federalism, the meaning of federalism, features of federalism, types of federation, and lists of jurisdiction. Don't worry, you're going to study in this chapter in detail, so you don't have. This is a cartoon. You can see here everybody is aiming at each other, right? If you can understand this cartoon, that is the central government and the state government fighting with each other when their own pillars. Now you can see here, you can see a tug of war happening between the federal, that is the central government, and the state government, obviously over the power and resources allocation. So, what is federalism? Now, federalism is a system of governance, government in which the power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. It can be with two constituent units, namely the state government and the local government. It can be within the local government, but the main idea is in a system of government where the central authority, that is the central government, and the various constituent units of the country, the power is divided. Usually, a federation has two levels of government. We have three. Now, one is the government for the entire country, and the other one is for the states. Normally, this is how it works. The government for the entire country, that is usually responsible for a few subjects of common national interest. The others are governments at the level of provinces, or we call them as states, that look after much of the day to day administering of the state. However, we have the third level of the government to look after the demands of the local people, thus creating decentralization. So both these levels of governments enjoy their power independent of the other. You have studied that in the vertical form of power sharing. Now you can see a pyramid. Lasting freedom, peace, and prosperity come from adhering to the laws of nature. Look at this, how it is made. It is built on the laws of the nature and the people, that those people who have elected the representatives to their respective parliament or the legislative assembly. Look at the topmost government, that is the federal government or the central government, followed by a state government. County government is in England. We call it as a state government. Then comes the local government. In India, it is called as the Panchayati Raj government. This question is very important, boys and girls. Which are the key features of federalism? Now, I suggest you, if you listen very carefully, you don't have to by heart. Now, we'll go with the first one. There are two or more levels of government. Two or more. In India, there are three, namely central government, state government, and local government. Second one, different tiers of government govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation, taxation, and administration. Now, what does this mean? See, let us say we are A, right? We are being ruled by the central government, we are being ruled by the state government also in the same time. So, different tiers of government govern the same citizens, fine? But each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation. Let's take legislation. In policy making, central government and the state government have different powers. For example, policy regarding the police can be made by the state government. Central government cannot interfere. Policy regarding defense can be made with the central government, the state government cannot interfere. Taxation, which tax to pay, which are the taxes that you pay to the state government, which are the taxes that you pay to the central government. And administration, you know it already that administration of our Vidyalaya, that is the Kendriya Vidyalaya, is a central based one, right? The policies are made by the central government. But if you look at the state government run schools, the state board schools, the administration takes place by the state government authority. Third one, the jurisdiction of the respective levels or tiers of government are specified in the constitution. So the existence and authority of each tier of government is constitutionally guaranteed. Why does there is a three? First, it was two level government. In 1993, it became three. But who has given them? It is constitutionally guaranteed. Which are the powers? Which are their jurisdiction? Jurisdiction is the area of their working. Is constitutionally guaranteed. Fourth one, the fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of government. Such changes require the consent of both the levels of government. There are some fundamental provisions like the fundamental rights. Can you change with only the help of the central government because you are there in power? You cannot. You need the consent of both the levels of the government. Now remember the case of the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh was split into Telangana. Now, can the central government just impose this rule tomorrow saying that Maharashtra, Karnataka will split Karnataka and will give it to Kerala, will give some parts to Maharashtra? I'm afraid no. They have to take the consideration of this level of government, that is the state government too. Now, this is a picture to explain how, even though national government is a bigger one and the state governments are smaller unit, federation, if they are equally sharing power, then there will be balance. If it is not, you know it will be imbalance. Fifth one, let's move on with the features of the federation. Courts have the power to interpret the constitution and the powers of different levels of government. If you have any problems with your jurisdiction, the courts will interfere. The highest court acts as an umpire if disputes arise between different levels of government in the exercise of their respective powers. If you think the central government is not doing a good job, it is interfering with you, then you can approach the Supreme Court, the highest court. It will act as an umpire, right? Thus, the form of horizontal power sharing, remember, each checks each other. Sources of revenue for each level of government is clearly specified to ensure its financial autonomy. Now we have the GST, the goods services tax. Even though the central government collects it, it will give some of the tax to back to the state for welfare function, for other reasons, right? You have seen now that the central government has announced a record breaking package for corona outbreak, right? And they will give it to the state government. Even though you collect it from the state government and give it to the central government distributes based on the need. The federal system thus has dual objectives. What is the first one? To safeguard and promote unity of the country. Second, to accommodate the regional diversity. So first one is promoting unity, second one is hanging on with your diversity. Thus we say unity in diversity. There is no other country which is a better example for that line. Now, therefore, two aspects are crucial for the institutions and practice of federalism. First one, governments at different levels should agree to some rules of power sharing. There should be some mutual respect from both of them. They should also trust that each would abide by its part of the agreement, right? If there is an agreement drawn, both of them should agree. It's like playing kabaddi. That party, this party, both have to agree on the rules. Otherwise, it won't be called a game. An ideal federal system has both aspects, that is, mutual trust and agreement to live together. What is balance of power? The exact balance of power between the central and the state government varies from one federation to another. It is depending on how your federation has been formed. Sometimes central government will have more power, the state government won't have. In some federations, state governments have equal power like that of the central government. It depends on how you are formed. Yes, moving on which are the routes through which federations have been formed. The first route involves, there are two routes, the holding together federation and the coming together federation. Look at the name, holding together, that is by force, coming together mutually. So the first route involves independent states coming together on their own to form a bigger unit, so that by pooling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security. This type of coming together federations include US, Switzerland, and Australia. You know it, right? The US central government, state governments have almost equal powers. Even that's why you see that the mayor of New York is challenging Donald Trump in the corona outbreak, right? Can you imagine any of our state chief minister challenging our Mr. Prime Minister? May not seem so. In this first category of federations, all the constituent states usually have equal power and are strong as the federal government. It's just like the federal government. The second route is interesting, where a large country decides to divide its power between the constituent states and the national government. Our country is a big example. India, Spain, and Belgium. Remember, Belgium, they shared the power between those diverse communities. It is called the Holding Together Federation. Yeah. In the second category, the central government tends to be more powerful because it is holding everybody together. If it gives more power, may be possible that they will run away and form their own state. Very often, different constituent units of the federation have unequal powers. Some units are granted special powers too. We will study about this later, but remember, the first one is coming together federation, second one is holding together federation. The next slide, I will just give you a differentiation. You can see it's clearly differentiated. The coming together, independent states coming together to form a big unit, whereas here the large country decides to divide power. It increases security because their sovereignty and identity are pooled together. Here, the central government is more powerful. All constituent states have equal power. Here, not necessarily so. US, Switzerland, and Australia are example. India, Spain, and Belgium are the example for holding together. Now, let's come to our own, the Indian Federation. India had emerged as an independent nation after a painful and bloody partition, 1947. Soon after independence, several princely states became a part of the country. The constitution declared India as a union of states. Although it did not use the word federation, the Indian Union is based on the principles of federalism. The constitution originally provided for a two-tier system of government, the union government, or what we call as the central government, representing the Union of India, and the state government. Later in 1992-93, third tier of federalism was added in the form of panchayat and municipalities called as the Panchayati Raj government. Now let's check the list of jurisdiction. Remember, each tier government has their own policy to make. There is a jurisdiction. They cannot cross the jurisdiction. Let's know which are those jurisdiction. First comes the union list. What is a union list? The things which are mentioned in the union list, only the central government can make the policy. Union, state list, right? Union list includes subjects of national importance such as defense of the country, foreign affairs, banking, communications, currency. You will see that is why the policies on these matters are made by the central government. You take example of banking. All the banks are nationalized. Communications, the BSNL, Doordarshan, MTNL, Akashwani, everything is under the central government. Currency, uh, printing the notes or circulation of notes or regulation of notes is also in the hands of the central government. They are included in the list because we need a uniform policy on these matters throughout the country. It cannot change on for one state. The union government alone can make the laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the union list. I hope you got it. State list, same thing, where here the state government makes the rules. It contains subjects of state and local importance such as police, trade, commerce, agriculture, and irrigation. The state government alone can make the law relating to the subjects mentioned in the state list. That's why you'll have a lot of problems in police. The state government makes the law. The next one is concurrent list. What is concurrent list? It is the common interest. It includes the subjects of the common interest to the union as well as the state government, such as education. I always give this example. Look at our school. Kendra Vidyalaya is run from the central government. However, it's in the state government jurisdiction. So there needs to be policy made by those two too. For example, the land should be given by a state government, even though the administration is from the central government. The land should be from the state government. So the policies are being made by the central and the state. Forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption, succession. These are the subjects where dono state government and the central government can make the law. If their laws conflict with each other, let's say they don't match with each other, right? Conflict, contradictory, then the law made by the union government will prevail. Why? Because ours is a holding together federation where the central government is supreme. Residuary list. What is residuary list? If anything is left out of the above three mentioned, it's taken as residuary subject. Normally, union government will have the power to legislate on these subjects. I read somewhere that software and hardware, those things come under the central government. Special status. Now, this is a very burning issue. It was a burning issue 6 months before, where Jammu Kashmir had its own constitution. Remember the abrogation of Article 370. Right? Many provisions of the Indian constitution are not applicable to this state without the approval of the state assembly. Indians who are not permanent residents of this state cannot buy land or house here. Similar special provisions exist for some other states of India as well. In parts of the northeast, if you are from outside, you cannot go and buy the land there. That is made to make sure that the localites are safer. Their land is safe with them. Otherwise, who knows? The capitalist from from India will go there, will buy land, will construct malls. Development, but for them it's not development. Remember the development chapter. Development for one may not be the development for another one. Now, I don't think this will be very much important because the constitution itself doesn't have a special status. Now, Jammu and Kashmir, doesn't have a special status now. There are some states which enjoy a special privilege, but not like Jammu Kashmir. For example, if you want to go to Meghalaya, Arunachal, Mizoram, you have to take permission prior. You have to take, um, you mention your details, who are going, so that you will have no problem. Otherwise, you will be caught there, you will be questioned. So, no big deal, they will issue a permit right there, but hassle free, you should take first. Like Assam, if you have to go, if you have to go to the northeast, you have to land in Assam to go to those places. So, I'll explain this more when maybe in the live interactive class. Yes, this slide has been duplicated. This is the differentiation. Union list as subjects of national importance. Union government. Union, remember, central government can alone make the law, defense, banking, currency, foreign affairs, and communication. State government. State government can make the law, police, trade, commerce, agriculture, and irrigation. Concurrent both can make the law, and residuary software and hardware. Now comes a certain interesting thing. Union territories. What is this union territory, or else we call it as UT? There are some units of the Indian Union where they enjoy very little power. These are areas which are too small to become an independent state, but which could not be merged with any of the existing states, like Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, or capital city of Delhi, are called union territories. Puducherry, right? These territories do not have the powers of a state. The central government has special powers in running these areas. So the person who will be running this will be called as Lieutenant Governor General. Normally, some states do have their state government, like Delhi has its own state government, Puducherry has its own state government, Chandigarh, obviously, capital to both the states Haryana and Punjab. Now, you should remember here that the UTs are normally ruled by the central government. The laws apply are from the central government. The sharing of power between the union government and the state government is basics to the structure of the constitution. It's not easy to make changes to this power sharing arrangement. You just cannot on a fine day come up with more power to the state government. Cannot do that because it is going against the fundamental provisions of the constitution itself. The parliament cannot on its own change this arrangement. Any change has to be first passed by both the house of the parliament with at least two-thirds majority. Then it has to be ratified by the legislature of at least half the total states. Now, wait a minute. I'll tell you how it is done. It's not easy to do it. It's two-third of both the house of the parliament. What is that one? 545 plus 250, right? Then comes, let's say, 29 states, half, that is 15 states have to ratify, they have to pass, then you can go and change the arrangement. That is nearly impossible. Yeah, even the state government has the same party in the central and the state. Normally this is always met with criticism. Changing the fundamental provision of the constitution always meets with criticism. Now let's go back to summarize the list that we have studied: the union list, the state list, the concurrent list, a residuary list, special status, and union territories. Guys, today we have begun with the federalism. This is what you're going to study today. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comment box. How was the video? Did you like it? Which are the subjects that you liked? You can comment in the comment box. Please comment in the comment box so that I know that you have watched the video. So today I will conclude it here. Tomorrow I'll come back with the latter part of this chapter that is also very much interesting. Right. What makes India a federal country? Decentralization and Panchayati Raj coming up tomorrow. End of part one. Thank you for watching. And let's move back to the live interactive classes. Goodbye, Chev.